Hi, my name is Michael Hackett from Logica Corporation, and today we're going to be doing part 2 of my video series on testing in DevOps, continuous testing. So today's topic, before we get further into continuous testing, I want to talk about some glossary words, because understanding what we're doing and some of the words, some of the jargon people are throwing around is really important. So on this DevOps journey, there are many milestones that people can achieve. And the first continuous is continuous integration. So I think people who understand Agile or understand the XP practices in Agile understand what continuous integration is. It's getting regular builds, whether it's a daily build or the latest and greatest build, that every time a chunk of code is finished, you can pull another build, or a build is automatically pulled for you, and we can do a build validation on that version of the software. So when we talk about CI, there's many levels of CI, and CI is always about the auto build. Then it can be about rerunning unit tests. It can be about rerunning the smoke tests, and there are different levels of CI, what they call CI awesomeness, where you can add more tests, add more environments, but at a basic level, continuous integration is an automated build process and the beginnings of an automated build validation process using a tool like Cruise, that used to be called Cruise Control. Jenkins is the most popular. Bamboo, Auto Build. There's a dozen tools. There's more than a dozen. There's a lot of tools that do this auto build process. But continuous integration is making sure that the development team, the test team, and the programmers have access to the latest and greatest build. That it doesn't take a day for a programmer to manually pull a build anymore. The build can be automated, and every day at a certain time, or every time there's a check-in, a new build can be generated and begin to be validated. So that's CI, continuous integration. So after the CI process, we get into continuous testing. And continuous testing is not just continuously testing. Continuous testing is this DevOps process where once you get your auto build and you have your unit tests run and your smoke tests run, you extend on from this where you can start building out new and different test suites and be running them on a variety of test environments. So that could be as simple as, I don't want to go into the whole continuous testing process in this glossary definition section of the video, because our next video is going to be fully about continuous testing. But let's say that continuous testing is expanding on continuous integration, where I might run my full regression. I might run it on a variety of environments. I might run it on a test environment. I could run it on a staging environment. I could run a different set of regression tests, some other regression tests. I could run full end-to-end scenarios on a production-like environment. I can be adding more tests as part of my continuous testing process. But so from DevOps, we start with continuous integration, that grows into continuous testing, and then that leads us to continuous delivery. So where we have this continuous testing set of practices running, these continuous testing suites running on a variety of environments, outside of our individual sprints, finishing user stories, finishing requirements, when we get these user stories done, when we get these requirements done, either if we're doing Kanban, where we're focused on one individual chunk of work like a user story, when we get that done, or if we finish a sprint and we have a set of user stories done, with continuous testing, when the tests are complete, that can lead us to what's called continuous delivery, where we can deliver the code so that then we're done with it. I hesitate there because continuous delivery is one of these evolving terms where we are delivering the code, the dev side is finished, we're done, but it may not wind up going to deployment. It may not wind up going live, but it's done and it's ready to be deployed. So continuous delivery is the dev side finishes code, no technical debt. It's done, and it is delivered to the business as ready so that it can be deployed whenever the business needs it to be deployed. The next continuous in this paradigm is continuous deployment, and that is the development side. We finish a user story, we finish some requirements, we finish a sprint, whatever. We have this code that goes through our development process that includes continuous integration. The continuous testing is running in the background as we're finishing the sprint and doing new functional tests on the product under development. When that is done and it's past the continuous testing process, and when I say a variety of environments, that includes a staging environment. When that is done, it can go from the development team to deployment, where it goes right out to customers, it goes right out to users, and we don't wait 5 or 6 sprints, we don't wait 3 or 4 months. If it's an individual user story and we finish an individual user story and the business needs it, and we've finished our continuous testing process, it can go right to deployment without it being a patch, an emergency fix, an e-release, because of a bug. Which, sometimes we do make software changes and it has to go into production that day because it's a customer-focused bug and it's a problem. But it's not like that. What continuous deployment is as a regular matter of course, as a normal way that we develop. As soon as a user story is done and it passes through this continuous testing process, even as far as working on a staging environment, it can go into deployment right then or that night or at the next, whatever the next scheduled deployment is. It can go out to our users at that point. So we have continuous integration, auto build, and whatever kind of build validation we do, continuous testing, that we're going to talk more about that in the next piece on this video series, but is more testing on more environments with a whole different variety of tests. I hesitated there. It's not just rerunning the regression suite. I want to point that out now. We'll talk more about that in the next video, but it's not just rerunning the same set of tests on the same environment. It's running a different suite of tests on a variety of environments. That's continuous testing. Leads us to continuous delivery, where the code is delivered so that it can be deployed whenever the business needs it. And then there's continuous deployment, which is where the code, whatever functionality we have done that meets the criteria of done, can go right out to deployment at that moment. It doesn't have to wait until some other event happens, like operations fixes something or does something, or operations takes it. It can just automatically be rolled right into production. And then there's one more continuous in this paradigm, and that's continuous monitoring. Now, continuous monitoring is an interesting view on how we handle development these days, and that is with things rolling into production so much faster, and the speed of development being what it is, that it's just getting code from a user story out into the business hands and to users, into production, is so much faster. We need to find out, to keep our finger on what's happening in production. So we need to monitor what's happening out in production. So there's this idea of continuous monitoring. And what that is using tools. It's always using some kind of tools that are going to give you logs or are going to have some kind of automatic reporting that will capture whatever kind of metrics the business decides is important to look at the health of the system, whether it's transactions or number of users or certain activities that are happening on a server. It could also be service availability. There could be tests running in production. And we'll talk about testing in production. When we talk about continuous testing, we'll talk about testing in production. But there could be certain tests that you have running all the time in the background on production to make sure that all of the services are available. And when something happens, when we're monitoring and we get some feedback to the team and we find out that something is happening that we don't want to be happening, we can then take that feedback and then take action on it. So we don't have to wait for, if there's a certain service that's unavailable, we don't have to wait for a customer to call customer support, and then customer support will notify the development team and say, customer's having a problem, they can't do this transaction, or there's a bug and it's preventing people from doing this. Tests are running to monitor the system all the time in the background, so that if a service goes down, the team will immediately be notified, and there might even be root cause analysis where you can find out from the monitoring tests exactly what is the problem that's wrong, and it can be isolated, which is going to make it easier for the team to fix. So in DevOps, in this journey of DevOps, we have these various milestones to DevOps maturity. We have continuous integration, continuous testing, continuous delivery, continuous deployment, and continuous monitoring. So these 5 continuous ideas is our DevOps journey.